So the third piece in that belief system is habits, because you need the habits. And what do I mean by that? Once you have, because like I said before, belief dictates actions. And so what you want to do is you want to have the right habits, because once you create the right habits, a lot of fixing your credit and managing your credit and building your credit is just you doing what you do on a regular basis. With the good habits, it'll build itself, but you have to be doing good habits. Things like when we talk about in far as revolving credit, we talk about the habit of keeping your credit card balances below the 30% credit utilization threshold. So when you have the habit of keeping it below 30, that's good for your credit, and it's good for your relationship with your credit card companies. And you show that conservative use of credit, they will raise your credit limits. Having a habit of paying your bills on time, make sure you're paying on time, more than the minimum, maybe even a little bit more. Having a habit of not applying for a lot of credit, being a habit of being careful with your finances as well as your credit. And just basically referring back to some of the other things that I talked about before with the beliefs, the behaviors, and the belongings. Because again, the habits, because if you got the right beliefs, it'll determine your behaviors, and your behaviors become habits. And then those behaviors determine the actions, results, and then those actions determine what you end up with in terms of belonging. So now the next piece is I'm going to talk a little bit about faith, because I believe faith and belief kind of go hand in hand in this being successful in fixing your credit, fixing your life, any of those things. First of all, you have to have faith in yourself, because even God wants you to have faith in yourself, because you have to be able to believe in your ability to make this work. If you're working on your credit yourself, it's tough. There's a lot of time and energy that is required to get things right, a little bit of thought in when you're tracking things and developing the habits. But you have to have the ability to, and the belief in your ability that you can actually achieve your goal, right? And then you also have to have a little bit of faith. If you're hiring someone to work on your credit, you got to have faith in them, and that they're going to act in your best, that they have their willingness and able to act in your best interest. So that goes a long way towards that level of success. So the second element that I think you need in credit repair is understanding and knowledge. Well, I should say knowledge and understanding. So we start with knowledge. Obviously, you want to make sure you got the right guidance, the right resources. You want to, from a trusted resource, going back to trust, and you want to make sure that it's someone who is giving out valuable information to help you. And then once you get that knowledge, whether it's a book, a course, video, make sure you understand the information, and understand the process and understand the whole thing behind it, so that you can follow the instructions and get the same results that they're promising if the system is legitimate or effective. I'll say effective. So in understanding the credit restoration process, let's talk about DIY, a DIY aspect. So if you want to fix your credit yourself, you want to make sure you got those credible sources and that they got credible methods. Number two, if you're going to hire a company, you want to make sure that, like I said before, that you understand, what their process is going to be, what their strategy is going to be. You may not want to know all the details, but you want to at least know the general process, and they should be telling you what to expect in terms of results as you go along, right? And that you understand that their strategy is what you want, and that they understand your goals. So understanding, not just a basic outline, but some level of understanding. And either whether you're hiring someone or whether you're going to work on your credit yourself, You should learn and understand the process step by step that you got to do if you're looking to dispute negative items on your credit, like collections and things. You should learn that process. I talk about that in another video, and there'll be another upcoming video where I'm going to go into a little more detail with dispute for those of you who really want the nitty gritty. I try not to get too heavy and deep into subject in these videos because I know some people don't want that. But for those, I'm going to go a little bit deeper into it. Now, as I said before, a good credit repair specialist is going to explain everything to you. They're going to educate. We educate on the process. We educate about credit, how it works, what you can do to hurt yourself and avoid it, what you can do to help yourself and encourage that. I'm all about transparency. Any company you get, if you're going to work with someone, they should be transparent. They should be able to answer all of your questions and more than your questions. So, because I've talked to countless prospects and some clients who converted to me where they've been burnt, like I talked about burnt people, where they've had companies where they spoke to someone on the phone when they were solicited and they signed up. But after that, they didn't have a phone number to call with issues and problems. They either had to text, they had to go to the online a portal and work with chatbot or something like that. A good company, you should be able to reach out to the individual who you're working with. And if you can't get them every time, sometimes folks call me if I'm on a call with someone else. I oftentimes will, but I always get back to them. And so that open line of communication both ways is a sure sign of someone that you can trust and that someone that you can have belief and faith in to help you achieve your goals. The next thing we're going to talk about is really three pieces in one, the 3 P's: patience, persistence, and participation. Now, of course, we've all heard the old saying, patience is a virtue. If nowhere else in the world, it definitely applies in credit repair, because you got to have, first of all, when we talk a little bit, I'm not going into the Fair Credit Reporting Act laws, but I will tell you this. One of the main laws, one of the paramount laws is that when you reach out to the credit bureau or one of your creditors or a collection agency who says you owe them money, anytime you request anything from them, the law says they have 30 days from the receipt of your request to investigate and respond to your request. And so for a lot of people, 30 days is a long time to wait for an answer. In our day and age of instantaneous communication, the fact of you reaching out to someone and having to wait up to 30 days or so, maybe more like 30 to 45, because even they got 30 days to respond, and respond means create the response and log it. And then if they mail it back to you, then you got to wait for the mail. And that could be another 7 days or even longer, depending on what's going on in terms of the mail. But you got to have patience to wait for those responses. When we're asking for them to change things and move things, we got to wait for them to respond. We got to wait for them to take action and make the necessary, or if it's the necessary change or the requested change, we have to wait. So patience is huge in credit repair. Whether you're doing it yourself, you got to have patience. Whether you're working with someone who's helping you with your credit, you got to have patience, because the process is the same. Whether I do it for you or you do it yourself, the process is virtually the same. Persistence. You definitely have to have persistence, because again, you want to have that. Well, I'm gonna back up. One more thing. I'm gonna speak a little bit more about patience. Now, you got to have patience in your credit repair specialists, and they should be updating you with activities, and then you should stay updated on activities in terms of your credit. You got to have patience with the bureaus, because the bureaus are known for, initiating stall tactics. You send in a request for an investigation. They send you a letter that says, hey, we're not sure if it's you. We need you to call us and verify that we received a request and we're not quite sure whether it was really you. And then, of course, the 30-day turn time to investigate that I mentioned earlier. And then with creditors, if they oftentimes require you to call them. If you got to bring an account current, if you have questions, you want an investigation, they always say you got to call them. So you have to take time to call them. Hopefully you get someone on the phone. Sometimes you're in call centers, queues, and then you got to have patience to wade through that. And so that's when I speak to that. And then with third-party collection agents, you definitely got to have patience with them because they will send endless demands for payment. If you call them, you're going to get aggressive folks. I don't want to say rude, but we're going to get people who are aggressive in their collection efforts. I'll put it that way. And you got to have patience to deal with those types of people on the phone. And now, if they get to the point of being abusive, I always recommend that folks record their calls with them because they're recording for quality purposes. But I think you should record as well. And if you can cite evidence of abuse from them on the phone or threats or rudeness and things like that, you can file action against them and they can be sanctioned. You could possibly be awarded some sort of damages because they're behaving improperly. But at the end of the day, all of these things require back and forth communication between you and your credit repair specialists, them and the credit bureaus, the creditors, and the collection agencies. And you still, even when you hire someone, there still may be some times where you still have to reach out for certain things as well. Patience, patience, patience. With persistence, that goes hand in hand with that patience because again, you got to stay on them. They make it difficult because they're hoping that you quit before you achieve your desired results and clean up things if there are errors and things of that nature. But everything else, they try to really make it hard for you. So you have to be persistent in all those things that I mentioned. And then in participation, this is a big one because oftentimes I've gotten better at kind of sort of screening it out now with folks in terms of expectation, but oftentimes people think that when they hire someone to fix their credit, to help them with their credit, that they don't have to do anything. They just write a check and then sit back and wait. In the credit repair process, obviously, when you do it yourself, you know what your level of participation is. It's 100% because you're doing it yourself. But even when you hire a credit repair specialist, there still should be a level of participation on your part. If you hire someone and they say they're fixing your credit, they're working on your credit, and they're not asking you to do anything, they are missing a huge part of the process because there are things that they should be asking you to do that is part of your end in the journey of fixing your credit. Credit repair people cannot do it all themselves. I'll take that back. There are a few companies out there that will have you sign a power of attorney and then try to do everything, but you still got to participate because even your open and active credit, you still have to participate by still paying those bills on time and in full, restrained from applying for more credit while you're trying to build your credit. So there still is a level of participation required by you, whether you are going to fix your credit yourself or whether you're going to hire someone else to do it. There's going to be some back and forth, but stay strong, be patient, be persistent, and stay in participation game. Okay. And I'll tell you a time when persistence pays off. I got one where it paid off quickly, and another one took a little bit of time. I had a client, and she had several collections on her account, three of them which were utility related collections. One was with a third party collection agency, but the original creditor was Verizon. There was one where the original creditor was Duke Energy, and then there was one where the original creditor was Spectrum. So all utility related. We had a conversation, um, and she said, "Yeah, I think I had something with them, so on and so forth." And so actually, she wasn't a client because these were the only things she had on her credit. And she kind of wasn't sure if she wanted to pay me. She said, "Well, I'm going to try to do it myself." She was like, and so I told her, "Here's what you would need to do. You want to reach out to the collection agencies and you want to ask them to validate and verify the original debt that they say you owed with Verizon, Duke Energy, and Spectrum." And I told her if they can't validate and verify the information, then they have to drop their collection efforts, and these need to be, they would have, any of these would have to be removed from her credit. And she said, "Okay, I'm going to try, and I'm going to try." And I gave her instruction on how to do that. And she called me back. It was, I lose track of time. This was a few years ago. But I think it was somewhere around, it was between 1 and 2 months. It was over a month, but I think it was less than two. And she had explained to me the story, which she had went back and forth. She had a relatively easy amount of time with the Duke Energy collection, but the Verizon and the Spectrum, she had a large level of difficulty. Spectrum claimed that she didn't return equipment, which she did, and so she had to figure out how to prove that, and she managed to dig up some back and forth with that, but she got it removed. The Spectrum balance was 700 and some odd dollars. I think it was like 737, something like that. The Verizon account, funny thing about this one, this was an account that she had where she had got the free phones, and then she switched from Verizon to T-Mobile. T-Mobile said, "We'll pay your contract out." But what she didn't realize is when she got the free phones from Verizon, that she had agreed to, which we did a little research, and I told her this is what you need to do. But we did a research and found out that she had signed up for those free phones in her service agreement for 24 months. And it said that she was required to keep her service for 24 months. If she canceled, if she terminated, actually it said if she terminated the agreement before the 24 months, the retail value of the equipment, the two phones that she had, would become due and payable, which was about $1,700. And so she went some back and forth with them, but it turns out that we were able, well, she was able to get them to negotiate it down, and so they took a lesser amount, and they still agreed to take it off her credit because I had instructed her on how to get a deletion letter to ensure that they did that. And so with a little back and forth over nearly 2 months, she was able to do it. Patience, persistence paid off for her, and it can pay off for you too if you do the same in that regard.